Rated M for mature.
Don't let your kids watch it!
Oh man, that timed perfectly with the beat drop at there and there. Wow. Oh no, my horror visual novel has horror elements, egads. My mother was a very busy woman. The harder she worked, the more her work was valued, and so she kept getting promoted. She sought to go higher and higher. She was always shining, and she was my hero. My mother started her career as a fashion designer at a small clothing factory in Okinomiya. My father was a designer, too. They met through their jobs and soon got married. They lived in a small apartment in Okinomiya. But they moved to my grandma's house, our current house, in Hinamizawa when she got pregnant with me. We lived there until right before I went to elementary school. Now that I think about it, that was the happiest time of my life. I felt happy every day and believed without a doubt that tomorrow would be the same. I was so happy that I took it for granted and didn't even feel the happiness. I really did feel happy every day. I was small at that time and didn't really understand what was going on, but it seemed like the company my parents were working for was having financial difficulties. So my mother and a few other young designers started talking about leaving the company and going independent. After many things happened and the situation grew complicated, they got an offer to work at a big design firm in Ibaraki, and they took the offer. At that time, I heard my mother saying many difficult words like limited partnership and business alliance, but in short, what she wanted to do was move to Ibaraki. My mother and her peers were hired because of their talent and experience made them immediate assets at their new company. I am crying though, Clubus. Oh. Yeah, we'll see about that. It takes a lot to make old stone-hearted Artie to cry. Thus far, Clonard was the one that actually did it. We'll see if this is able to as well. However, my father wasn't one of them. Unfortunately, my father wasn't as talented as my mother was. So moving to Ibaraki meant that my father had to give up being a fashion designer. My mother's new company had high expectations of her talent and promised her a responsible project. Ooh. She didn't want to waste her growing talent and passion by living in a rural town like Hinamizawa. So my mother convinced my father to quit his job and move to Ibaraki to support her and help her build her career. Back then, moving meant that I had to say goodbye to my close friends. I didn't want to move, and I kept crying about it. After we moved to Ibaraki, my mother was a big success. Is your mother named Cruella DeVille? That would be interesting. Not only did she have great leadership skills, she was full of energy, and I believe she had the best use of her talents to succeed. She made the best use, whoops. She came home late every night and barely had any days off, because she's a #girlboss. When she had a big project, she often stayed entire nights at her office. But when she came home, she always looked fulfilled and wore a happy smile that she had never worn when she was in Hinamizawa. It's not Ryukushi's fault. It seems to be the fault of the country, or the company in charge of distribution. It's weird that they're fine with horror violence, but are very touchy about World War II. If it's a Japanese company, I get that. It's a cultural thing. Another YouTuber playing Higurashi had a big sheet with all the connections and theories and all the keynotes. Am I taking notes, trying to solve the mystery? I'm trying to solve the mystery. I'm not taking physical notes. I'm just trying to remember as much as I can. So, no, I don't have a giant clipboard or corkboard in my house with all the streams with the conspiracy theorist guy like, oh, it's gotta be this. It's gotta be this. She was shining. I remember I always wanted to shine like her when I grew up. On the other hand, my father wasn't doing so well. He couldn't find a job as a fashion designer, so he took a clerical job at a small company, but he kept changing positions. I feel for her dad. It's tough. He couldn't use the experience that he had cultivated, and it was very hard for him. But he was very understanding. He started to take care of things around the house for my mother, who got busier and busier, having one project after another. He cleaned the house, did the laundry, and came to my school events. However, he couldn't cook. He did cook rice, but he always bought side dishes from a grocery store. We ate dinner without my mother more and more often. I guess she's busy again. Every time I said that, he always told me, your mother is working very hard, so let's support her, Rena. That was what he always told me. I decided to help my father with the cooking. I thought it was a good idea to learn how to cook since he wasn't good at it. Good for you, Rena. Whenever my mother cooked, I helped her and tried to learn how to cook from her. She apologized for not having enough time to cook for us, but she was happy that I was learning. You didn't figure it out because you didn't take notes like the guy, but oh well, it's fine like this too. I probably won't figure it out, but I'm also happy just making small theories and then just seeing how it unfolds. I'm totally fine with that. I think I wrote in my school yearbook that I wanted to be a clothing designer in the future, just like my mother. But apparently I lacked my mother's exceptional sense of style. She used to tell me, taste is something that you're born with, not something that you cultivate. I remember I was discouraged to be a designer because of that. That was why I decided to reach her by getting better at the things that she wasn't so good at, instead of trying to be like her. I wanted to be good at not only at cooking, but also at doing things around the house, such as cleaning, doing the laundry, and grocery shopping. I remember my father was really happy I did all that for him, because he wasn't good at it at all. He couldn't find a job and spent a lot of time at home, so he seemed to enjoy spending time doing the housework with his daughter more than anything. I started to become better and better at filling in for my mother, and she started to get too busy to do any of the housework at all, so she moved on to a more responsible position at her job. Oof. No wonder Rena's good at cooking and seems to be the mother of the friend group. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. She took me out to many places as if to compensate for leaving me all alone all the time. She used to say, let's go eat something delicious without telling your father, and took me out to a restaurant. You didn't bring the dad with you? Oh, come on, that's not okay. I'd be very upset about that. She took me to high-class restaurants and amusement parks. Sometimes it was only me and my mother, sometimes it was her friends from work. She took me to a beach barbecue one summer with those friends. I was introduced as her daughter, and every one of them pampered me. I still remember there was one guy who particularly doted on me. He was a good-looking young man. I called him Uncle once, and he got mad at me, who was nicely tanned and with dyed brown hair. He has brown hair, but that's dyed. But Mion's green hair is not. Go figure. Yeah, even if you have many theories and notes, it doesn't mean they're all true. You can only guess. Yeah, they do it. He's doing a really good job of cultivating the mystery and having there be a lot of different possibilities of what happened. It's very well crafted from a mystery standpoint. This young man often came with us when we went out. When my mother took me somewhere, she usually made several phone calls for her work during the day, and sometimes she took me out to a place where she could also do her work at the same time. So I didn't feel awkward when people from her work came with us. But I always preferred to be alone with her, so I was happier when we could do that. One day she took me to a very high-end part of town. Of course, she always spoiled me whenever we went out. She bought me things and let me eat whatever I wanted. But she especially spoiled me on that day. She took me to many expensive-looking boutiques and accessory stores. She was about to buy me something, but I told her not to get it because it didn't look good on me. Without hesitation, she bought it anyway. I remember there were many zeros on the price tag. On that day, I realized my mother's design work had made her a very successful woman, and she was earning a lot of money. We took a break at a ridiculously expensive-looking restaurant that probably charged 1,000 yen for a glass of orange juice. Bruh. That's not my place. Also, this doesn't look like it's a Michelin star restaurant. My mother clapped her hands and spoke to me with her smile on her face. She asked, Rena, would you like to make your dream come true? Oh, what's going on here? When I was in kindergarten, my teacher gave students a topic to draw a picture of. The topic was my dream, and I drew myself eating a mountain of fruit parfait all by myself. My girl! What my mother meant to say was that she was going to make that dream come true for me. It was a normal day. It wasn't my birthday or anything. But since my mother always spoiled me when we went out together, I didn't feel awkward about it at all, and I accepted her offer with a happy smile. Umineko is like 10 times harder to solve, it seems. You only played 2 chapters, but oh boy, were they complicated. Oh boy! Lovely! I'll keep that in mind if I actually end up playing Umineko. There were 5 or 6 of fruit parfaits. There were 5 or 6 of fruit parfaits in front of me. Okay, that's not a sentence that makes sense. I remember it looked exactly like the world I drew, and I felt like I was floating in that dream world. It was too much for us to finish. But we dug our spoons into it as if we were playing in the mud, and we really enjoyed eating it together. It was my first time to experience getting full by eating only fruit parfaits, and I remember I was very happy. I enjoyed tasting the happiness and chatting with my mother.
レイナちゃん、この間映画とお食事に行った時、一緒だった人のことを覚えてる？
Uh-oh, I don't like where this is going, Rena. Rena's mother, you better not be going in the direction I think this is going in.
秋人おじさんだっけ？はあ、お兄さんって呼ばないとぶたれる。
Oh, that's not good. That's not funny.
レイナちゃんは秋人さんのこと好き？
Not really.
嫌い。
Yeah.
いつもレイナのことからかうもん。
それは大好きだからちょっかいを出してるのよ。
Mm-hmm.
バーベキューの時はとっても仲良くしてたじゃない。
たまには仲良しかな。かな？
My mother laughed. I didn't know why she brought him up the subject, but I didn't really pay attention to it because I was too young. Now that I think about it, she was breaking the news. Uh-oh. Nope. I just didn't notice it.
ねえ、レイナちゃんはお母さんとお父さんとどっちが
No!
好き？
Oh, she cheating. She cheating.
お母さん。
Oh, wow! Poor dude. It wasn't that I hated my father or anything, but I thought giving her that answer was appropriate after she spoiled me so much. Okay, I mean, I get it.
もしもお母さんとお父さんが別々のお家に住むことになったら、
Oh,
レイナは
no!
どっちのお家に住みた
I
い？
feel... Okay, Rena's dad, I feel so bad for.
お母さんね、お父さんと別れて秋人おじさんと結婚しようと思うの。
Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil. That's not good. At that time, my mother was a very successful woman. I didn't know this at the time, but she was drafted by a headhunter to work at a bigger company where she was being promoted to a higher and more responsible position. One where she could bring out the most of her talent. It's exactly what I thought. Uh-oh, that's not good. Okay, so given this, so I'm assuming her parents are divorced now, and probably Rena is now going to be like the girl who, like, her dad's new girlfriend. That's what I'm predicting. That's what I'm predicting. We'll see if I'm right or if I'm completely dead wrong. Of course, the position wasn't the only thing she gained. Compared to my father's low salary, my mother was earning enough money to support a family of 3 and still have some left over. I'd kind of realized it from the way she spent money. Cash money, but the cash flow. The greater a position she achieved, the more she spent time with people at her level. All of them were bright and talented. Compared to them, my father might have looked unattractive to her. Yeah, but you married him, so, doesn't matter. I liked Uncle Akihito, but I liked him as one of my mother's friends, not in the same way I liked my father. I liked my father and my mother equally, so it was very shocking to me that my mother wanted to divorce him. I felt as if the ground below me was beginning to crack. That expression, I realized, actually fit my situation very well. Hold on. I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone, but it just started absolutely downpouring here. Wow, that came out of nowhere. I had to choose which side of the cracked ground I wanted to stand on. Oof. My mother told me to live with her at her new house. Her new house meant the house Uncle Akihito lived in. I thought a house was a sanctuary for a family. I believed that a house was a holy place where strangers couldn't easily enter. That was why I couldn't believe her. How could she let a stranger invade such a holy place so easily? Child Rena is based. Why do you hate my father? My mother looked down and didn't answer. I asked her another question. Why can't you stay with my father? I think that was the hardest and the most heartbreaking of all questions for my mother to answer. In short, my mother had cheated on him. Yeah. She loved another man who was more attractive than my father. It was just that and nothing more. I knew more than anybody that it wasn't my father's fault. Yeah, he's the victim here. First of all, he decided to move from Hinamizawa to support my mother as much as he could. For him, nothing good had come from that. Yeah, I know. Her mom definitely seems to be manipulating Rena by buying her all this fancy stuff to, like, be like, you should live with me. That's so bad. That's so rude. Well, not rude. It's worse than that. Actually, I think he had a very tough time since we moved to Ibaraki. But he volunteered to be her support and tried very hard to do that. I thought my mother appreciated his support. So, I took her decision as a betrayal, which it is! She is very wise for being so young. I told her that I disagreed with everything, including their divorce. I said it very loudly and made everyone in the store jump. Ooh, that's rough. Sure, continue your relationship with Uncle Akihito, but don't divorce my father. Well, no, you can't do that. That's also, he does not get to be the side bro. Nope. I feel bad for him. I feel terrible for him. He's been doing nothing but support you patiently this whole time. How could you do such a cruel thing to him? I screamed as loud as I could. Oh, I did not. Oh, now everybody in the restaurant's looking at you. Then my mother answered. It's too late. Why? You haven't talked with my father about this, have you? It's not too late.
お母さんね、妊娠してるの。
Oh, no. Oh, that... Oh. Well, that does complicate things, doesn't it? Yikes. Oh, come on. We didn't even get, like, a gong sound effect for, like, Rena's reaction. Just like... Wow. All right. Well, this is going to be a rough one. I don't know whether my mother actually told him about the divorce in person. A middle-aged woman who called herself a lawyer came to the house several times to talk to my father on my mother's behalf. She sometimes called him, too. My father begged the lawyer to let him speak directly to my mother many times, but it never happened. This poor man! I could tell by the way that they talked that he had no clue when my mother told him she wanted a divorce. Does he know that she cheated on him? He deserves to know that. Well, again, I'm not even sure if she told him in person. The lawyer told him not to meet my mother, not to call her at work, and many other things too. To top it all off, she told him not to see my mother ever again. He wanted to talk to her. He called some of her mutual friends, but he only found out the name of the guy she was having an affair with and nothing more. Okay, so he does know that much. What a way to find out, though. He asked me, "Do you know the guy?" I told him I do. I also told him that he was a funny guy and had given me candy many times. I'll never forget how he looked when I told him that. Oh, no. This guy just had his entire world just crumble. Oh, no. He hit me for the first time. Well, that's not okay. Ooh, that's really not okay. Bro, I was 100% on your side until that. He hit me so hard that his handprint stayed on my cheek for a while. Yeah, wow! No wonder Rena hates being home. Then he fell on the floor and cried loudly. And then I started to cry too. Oh, I didn't cry because he hit me. Uncle Hakahito was kind to me, so I liked him and talked to him out of courtesy. No, that wasn't it. Girls had to be kind to everybody. That's what I thought. But I was wrong. I learned in this world that there are people you should be nice to and enemies you shouldn't be nice to. Oh boy. You know, this does explain a lot. But wow. Yikes. This poor girl. Jeez. So Rena's the biggest victim in all of this. This is just a horrible, sucky situation. Also, Rena's mom has definitely moved up on the list of people I do not like in this game. She's not nearly as bad as Satoko's aunt and uncle or Shion, but she's not as bad as Grandma Ivor from the Sonozaki family. But she is pretty high up now. The enemies are the ones who would destroy my life with their very existence. That's definitely going to have some drastic ramifications in the future. Oof. Yeah, she's gonna go back to this and be like, "You're my enemy. I'll kill you." That's what I learned when I was a kid. Whether they were mean to harm me or not doesn't matter. They're like weeds growing in a flower bed. Dandelions are innocent, but they take all of the nutrition for the tulips from the soil. That's why we have to pull them out. The dandelions did nothing wrong, but they're the enemy. Enemies are bad people. That guy was a bad person. I shouldn't have accepted him. I should have rejected him with everything I had. You didn't know, Rena! Like, you are not to blame for literally anything. By doing so, I might have been able to disrupt their relationship. By doing so, I might have been able to make my mother feel like their relationship was not going to work. That is not on you. Nope. Your mother made that choice. And it's not like it was a one-off accident. Like, that is a deliberate pattern of repeated betrayal. If I tried to do so, my parents wouldn't have had to break up. My father and I cried together, but we cried for different reasons. He must have cried because it happened so fast and it didn't make any sense to him. And hopefully he also probably cried out of regret for, oh my gosh, why did I hit my daughter? I cried because I regretted that I let it happen when I had the chance to prevent it. And it's not your fault. My father stroked my cheek and opened his mouth to apologize, but he couldn't speak and just cried with me. Okay, at least he immediately regretted it. That's still not good, though. One day, the lawyer let me see my mother. My mother asked me to live with her at her house again. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept looking down and listened to her apologies. My father knew that I was going to see my mother on that day, so he handed me a letter and told me to give it to her. I don't know what he wrote in that letter, but for some reason I was able to imagine what kind of things he wrote when I felt it for the envelope. After all, The letter inside the envelope had a rough surface. He must have been crying while writing the letter, and his tears made the letter all wrinkled when it dried. My mother took the letter from me, told me that she'd read it later, and was about to put it in her bag. I stopped her and told her to read it there. I wanted to see how she was going to take the last words that my father had left to her. But my mother didn't read it. She told me she wanted to read it alone later, and she put it in her bag. At that time, I realized. No, it was more than that. I should say, I knew, because it was so obvious. I knew that my mother was lying. She had no intention of reading my father's letter. She was going to throw it away after I was gone, but she lied just because she wanted to seem like a nice person in front of me. The slight curl in her eyebrows and lips told me she was that clearly more than anything I need. I should really take some more time to read before I actually say the words. At that moment, I finally knew something else. The guy she was having an affair with wasn't the only bad person. My mother was also a bad person. Yes! Yes, she is. Or at least a person who made some very, very bad choices. And doesn't seem to regret them. Since that moment, the existence of my mother disappeared from my world like a dry ice evaporating. I didn't have to hesitate about whom to live with anymore.
あなたの家には行きません。私の家は竜宮の家です。もうあなたとも会いたくありません。二度と呼ばないでください。
でもねレイナ、お父さんの方に残ったらこれからの生活。
At that moment, I hated my name for the first time in my life.
私のこと気安くレイナって呼ばないでください。
Is that why she hates being called that?
失礼します。さようなら。
Those were my last words to my mother. No, to the woman who used to be my mother. After that, I spent many days without feeling anything. I didn't know if the days were long or short. I didn't know which season I was living in. It was supposed to be nothing out of the ordinary, not having my mother around. But every time my father saw things that reminded him of her, like her toothbrush, her teacup, or her favorite books, he shed tears, which left me frustrated. I don't know if Rena's mom just doesn't care, but man, I gotta say, if I had a daughter and she basically just said, I don't want to see you ever again, don't even call me, that would completely destroy my soul. Probably didn't have the same effect on Rena's mom, but you know, I kind of hope that stunned her a little bit to make her realize the implications of what she did. Wow. Satoko and Sachichi's abuse situation, Mion and Shion's complicated family upbringing that formed them into who they became. Rika lost her parents. Yeah, and there are no stable families except for Keiichi. And even then, his dad goes to Hooters on a regular basis, so, like, you know. That's why I decided to completely remove her belongings from the house. Okay, Rena, I don't think you necessarily need to go to that level, but I roughly threw her things into a black trash bag. I started to do so frantically. By the time I knocked down her wardrobe, threw her music box hard on the floor, and broke her mirror, my mind was already not working properly. When I try to remember what happened after that, I feel disoriented. That's because the pills the doctors gave me back then made me feel disoriented and lethargic every time I took them. Oh boy. It seems that the dullness hit me especially hard, since every time I try to remember that time, it makes me feel disoriented and lethargic just like the pills made me feel. I destroyed everything that smelled like my mother. But the thing I wanted to destroy the worst might have been myself. Yeesh! Even after I threw all of her belongings away, I still couldn't stop feeling regret, and I decided to blame myself in the end. Maybe I was thinking that I wanted to do damage to her reputation and successful life by destroying her daughter, destroying myself. When I was about to reach that very last resolution, Oyashiro-sama came to me. What is going on now? Oyashiro-sama told me to go back to Hinamizawa. What? Yes, all of this was because of his curse. Oyashiro-sama brought a curse upon the Ryugu family because we broke his rule and abandoned Hinamizawa. After I figured that out, everything started to make sense to me. All the crazy things that happened after my mother was gone, the curse of Oyashiro-sama did that to all of us. What the butts? Oyashiro-sama's a demon. He ain't, well, actually he might appear to you in heavenly light to trick you. Maybe that's actually pretty accurate. It was Oyashiro-sama's voice that was telling us to come back to Hinamizawa. Rena, I want to know how you heard his voice. Was this like in a dream? Was this just like the thought came into your head? Did an actual, like, physical being appear before you in spectral form? Or is this just the pills talking? Or is it the lack of pills talking? That's right. We should have stayed in Hinamizawa. Everything went crazy because we moved. No. We had to go back to Hinamizawa. Rena? No. I started feeling disoriented again, and a dull pain ran through my head. It might be a scream from within me telling me not to push myself too hard or to remember any further. Maybe you crazy. The house where we used to live in Hinamizawa was still there. My grandma already passed away, and the house was the only property she left for us. I remembered that I used to live in Hinamizawa, but all I remembered was that it was a village that I used to live in until right before I went to elementary school. I remembered the atmosphere of the village too, but that was all I remembered. I forgot the streets and even the names of close friends I used to play with. The neighbors knew that the son of the deceased woman had come back divorced, but they didn't know us and we didn't know them, so it was almost like we moved to a new place. However, as far as I was concerned, it was still my hometown that I had come back to. At first, everything was inconvenient compared to life in Ibaraki, and it was hard for both of us to adjust. Hang on. Did they just completely skip over the fact that Rena also broke all the windows in her old school? She didn't recount that part. Was that part of the... I don't really remember. I was lethargic. Like, so the pills you took made you forget that you destroyed your school. Okay. Gotcha. But we renovated the old house, and it was only me and my father. Life here seemed to make my father forget his pain from the divorce. Mi-chan was very kind to me, and I started to get used to my new life, too. I did everything around the house, and we gradually went back to a time where we used to live happily. Does she really just doesn't want her friends to know that her parents are divorced? Why did she lie to Keiichi about her parents being lovey-dovey, then? Is that just, like, how she wants him to think? Maybe she just doesn't... It's still a touchy subject, maybe? Because, like, he's probably gonna find out eventually, I would assume. Yeah, this is so interesting how most of the time when Oyashiro-sama's curse is talked about, it's portrayed as like this horrible, horrible thing, and then for Rena's like, it's what saved me. Anybody can live a happy life. People sometimes say that some people are born to be unhappy, but I believe that's just an excuse for people who don't even want to try. I won't give in to fate. That's not how you pronounce the word fate. I won't give in to fate. No, I can't give in to fate. If you could change your fate, would you? I'll never give up trying to recapture the happy times that I lost. I'm going to become happy to the point where I don't even feel the happiness anymore. I'm not going to cry anymore. I'll never cry again. I used up all of my tears on that night my father hit me. I mean, I kind of relate. I feel like all my tears dried up a while ago. Not really. I'll still cry very, very rarely. I saved my tears for the real sad stuff. The curse of Oyashiro-sama is over because we came back to Hinamizawa. So I'm going to have a happy life from now on. I don't think that's true, Rena. You don't have a happy ending in any chapter except, maybe chapter 2/5? I mean, she's alive in that timeline, but all of her friends move away. Or are dead. She dies in all the other ones. All of a sudden, big raindrops hit the roof of my car, and I recovered my senses. It was still raining hard. It had already gotten dark outside. The shadows of the table lamp created were very dark, and it looked as if there's nothing else around me. As I turned off this light, or if I turned off this light, would everything in this world disappear? I turned off the light. Darkness swallowed me. But the cold air and the sound of the rain didn't change a bit, and that made me realize I was still in this world. The curse of Oyashiro-sama. Did the curse of Oyashiro-sama do those crazy things to my family? Or did I convince myself it did as an excuse for myself because I didn't want to feel guilty about the divorce? Rena, regardless, you had no hand in the divorce. Sometimes I'm not sure. I know she was a kid. It's hard. Since that time, Oyashiro-sama hasn't come to me. I sometimes feel like it was a delusion I created because I was mentally ill. That probably is it. But he did come at that time. I'm sure about that. That was also when you were taking the pills. Am I right, Oyashiro-sama? I was unhappy after I left Hinamizawa, but I came back and I'm happy now. But where am I supposed to go now that I'm unhappy in Hinamizawa? Where?
ダメだ、レナ。不幸になったとか考えちゃいけない。私は幸せなんだ。
Rena, you might be in the cult of Oyashiro-sama because you have to be happy.
幸せになるんだ。だから絶対に幸せになれるんだ。
Suddenly, I feel if this darkness swallowed me, I'll never be able to be happy again. I found the switch of the table lamp and turned it back on. When I looked at the clock, it was already past 11 p.m. I had to go home. I wouldn't have much time to prepare my lunch for tomorrow day, and it still looks pretty light for 11 a.m. At least I'd have to set the timer on the rice cooker. It didn't look like the rain was going to stop anytime soon. I looked out of the window to see the rain, but I could only see my reflection. I talked to that reflection in the window. I'm so glad that my father's happy. He'd been acting like he was dead for a long time. The smile on his face is a good sign that he's regaining his former happy life. He became miserable because of me. No, he became miserable because your mom was a two-faced lion hoe. That's why I don't mind doing things for him until he regains his smile and became truly happy. When I stay here alone for a while, it gives me some time to be alone with her. Or it gives him time to be alone with her. Plus, I don't have to fake a smile. But then, my reflection in the window tells me, Rena, you're such a good girl. You're kind to everybody and love them equally. You can make anybody like you. But did you forget something? In this world, there are people you should be kind to, and enemies that you have to reject with all you've got. I thought you learned that lesson. No, don't listen to her. My reflection is always mean. She always says mean things and makes fun of my worries. But she always... Let's try that again. But she also... Let's try this again. But she always tells me things that I can't say myself. See, that wasn't so hard, Artie. Let's go home, Rena. To your home. Forget about the mean Rena in the mirror. I was a bit hungry by then. After all the desserts I ate, I still got hungry. I almost forgot. Rena-san bought me a shortcake. I've never had shortcake from Angel Mort, but I bet it'll taste good. I'd have to give my thanks to Rena-san the next time I see her. Okay, yeah, so Rena definitely the new girlfriend for her dad. I get that that's gotta be hard if you have divorced parents and the one you live with starts dating someone new. Especially if they're a Karen. We don't really know what Rena's like, but she kind of had the Karen face and a little bit of the Karen attitude when she's like, excuse me, this is supposed to be open. So maybe Rena sucks, or maybe she's like, not perfect, but perfectly alright. Will she be an upgrade from her mom? I guess time will tell. Rena-san speaks in a way that makes it very clear how she grew up, but I'm sure she's a good person. That's because she's so good to my father. I did everything I could to make my father smile, but I failed. On the other hand, Rena-san can put a big smile on his face so easily. He better not just be simping, though. I have to thank Rena-san. I have to thank her for cheering up my father. But I don't know why. I just don't like her perfume. I mean, if that's the worst thing about her, she actually probably is pretty alright then. Higurashi when they cry. New tips unlocked! My summer vacation picture diary and premonition of rainy days. And we get the achievement, Don't Call Me Rena. Reminisce on the past. Oh my, the photo was like a silhouette version of Rena, where like her face was entirely black, but she still had the orange hair and she had red lips. That was kind of frightening. It's a very unhealthy way to live, to act happy all the time and pretend your dark, sad thoughts don't exist and are wrong to feel. It's very healthy to process those negative feelings. Yeah, you can't push them down. You gotta at least address them and deal with them. Alright, my summer vacation picture diary. This is my favorite Beverly Cleary book, personally. Today I went to a swimming pool with my mom. Uncle Akihito came with us too. I don't like him because he's sometimes mean to me, but he's a very kind and funny old man. How old is this dude? Is he just a sugar daddy? He told me to call him daddy for that day. That's gross, because he was going to play with me at the pool like he was my daddy. Oof, nope, don't like that. Granted, maybe he doesn't have all the details of how much Rena's been told at this point, but oh, I hate that. My mom called him, barf! Oh, I'm not reading that. That is so, ugh. I'm gonna vomit in my cup. I hate that. Why the word daddy to describe your romantic partner is one of the most cringe-inducing things possible. Uncle Akihito looked very happy and gave me a lot of money. He's just throwing out those Ben Franklins to the kid to make her like him. My mom looked very happy and it made me happy too. I want to play with him again. I hope my dad can come with us next time. Oh, this explains why she's not bringing her dad to the restaurants. That is sad and gross. Premonition of rainy days. I opened the window, placed my cushion nearby, and prepared to enjoy the weather. But she came over and disrupted my peaceful evening. She always ruins my time of solitude.
幸せそうね。そっか。今日はあんたの大好きな甘いものがたくさん食べられたものね。
What? Okay. So we're getting deep-voiced Rika. I thought we were getting Rena and Rena. No, we're getting Rika. Wrong R name. This girl loves sweets more than anything. I like them too, but I can't eat like she does. It'd give me heartburn if I ate the amount she ate today. She seemed to be very happy, so I'll leave her alone for a while. I'd been making my favorite hot and salty food for the past few days, so she must be quite pleased today. It was a very fun day for me too. I just wanted to enjoy the memory of the excitement I felt today by sitting here quietly, enjoying the sunset. But when I looked up at the sky, I saw some thick clouds forming there. The wind was a bit cooler than usual. It might start raining soon.
大地震や大津波などの知らせとして浅瀬に普段は絶対に見かけることができない深海の魚が現れることがあるっていう話があるらしいわね。
Rika, when you speak in that deep voice, it is deeply unsettling. We saw a very rare fish that dwells in the deep water in the shallows today. Just as the ancient stories of sea monsters say, people hate deep sea animals and tend to interpret them as omens of a disaster. It didn't matter if they showed up alive or dead. Ah, I said something interesting just now. Even if they showed up alive or dead, it was an omen of a disaster. Oh, it might start raining soon.
うるさいな。言われなくても分かってる。洗濯物を取り入れるわよ。
I grabbed a basket and went outside to take the laundry in. The clouds were getting darker. I normally like rain, but I didn't think I'd enjoy it today. Okay, that was very weird and ominous, and seemingly very disconnected from what we just read. Okay, That, man, Rika's a mystery. She's probably my favorite character, but wow, this... You know what, let's just continue.